Hello friends, this is Archangel with Crypto Angel here, and today we're discussing the valuation or how much bone we're going to be getting per token and per block during the liquidity event. And this is part 3 of a video series on these. So if this is your first video, I encourage you to go back and watch the first one in order. So first we discussed the SHIB token. Second, we discussed the leash token, and now we're going to discuss the bone token. So this is for the liquidity event. So keep that in mind when we're looking at these numbers. This is only for a 2-week period at the beginning of the liquidity event. So we'll bring up the wolf paper here on bone. And now the one thing about bone is that there's going to be 250 million in tokens in circulation, but that is not going to be happening at the beginning of this liquidity event. So as the starting number on this is going to be 0, and this will take probably a couple years to mine out and hit that 250 million spot. Now, one thing to note is that we are not going to be discussing any other transaction fees or anything like that we'll be getting on these types of tokens. Because that all depends on the popularity and of the swap and how much this particular liquidity pool is actually used. So we can't really take that into consideration. So the only thing that we're really going to be focusing on is the return of bone, because we know how many bone are going to be minted per block, and we know how often a block of Ethereum is going to take to be minted. So that's all these videos are going to be discussing. And again, this is, if you haven't heard in the first 2 videos, this is all my speculation. I'm just using numbers that I've been able to either pull out of the wolf paper or from the devs in the Discord channel. So take this with a grain of salt. This is just some of the numbers that I'm using to make my analysis, and these are subject to change. So with that said, we'll go ahead and pull up our little spreadsheet here and look at the bone tokens as far as the comparison between dig and bury. And as with the other videos, these numbers are the same. So we know that there's 86,400 seconds in a day, and that a block of Ethereum is minted every 13.2 seconds. So with that, there's 6,545 blocks minted in a 24-hour period. And the total number of bone for that period is 5,890,000 and change. And we're using the 900 bone number for that because we know that the 100 bone out of that 1,000 is going to go to the marketing and dev allocations. So with that, we're using 29% for the bone allocation liquidity pool. And where I get that number is from a comment from Eric on 6.7, breaking out the allocations for each token: 29%, 13%, and 9%. That's bone, leash, and SHIB. So the bone token, we're giving a value of 29% of the allocation of each block. So with that said, these numbers are subject to change, so just keep that in mind. But this is the latest and greatest information I have right now. So with that, the bone allocation will be 1,700,000 and change for the liquidity pool. And, I use the total number of bone that will be minted by the end of that 14-day liquidity event. So the way I calculated this is taking the total number of bone that will be produced per 24-hour period and just multiplying that by 14 days. So this will be the total number of bone that will be available at the end of that 14-day period. So just keep that in mind. That's why I'm using the 82 million instead of the 250 million. The rest of this bone will be minted at the end over the next couple years, starting at 100 on day 15 and then working its way down from there. So with that said, each bone is going to mint at 0.2 bone per day. And I need to change this right here. As you can tell, I've used the same spreadsheets. So but the math is still good. And so that'll be 0.02 bone minted per bone per 24-hour period. And so if you're getting, let's say, 7 bone a day, or let's say 20 bone a day, we can take this and multiply it by 20, and we'll just do that math quickly here. And so that'll be 0.4 bone per day. So really it all depends on how much you can accumulate over time. And we'll see what those numbers actually end up to be. So going over to the berry, we've got these numbers here. Now, the only thing to note is I'm using the 1,000 bone because this gains 1% of all bone per block. So, and we know that for the allocation pools, 900 bone are going to be in consideration for those allocation percentages. But for the berry, right now I'm just going off the wolf paper of all bone, meaning the full 1,000 per block. So that's where I'm getting that number from. And then we can see that 1% of all bone per block is right here and calculated here. So that gives 65,000 bone per 24 hours in that allocation. So this is again for berry. And we're going to, let's see. So I probably should have used this number up here, but we know that it's not going to be 100% right out of the gate. So this is just going to be a conservative estimate. So again, this is that total bone number per day. So this would basically keep in line with the dev amounts as well. So again, that's going to be 0.0007 bone per day with the berry pool. So again, you know, these are per token. So the amount or the value of each token and how much they mint, you know, even though these numbers look small, you're going to be gaining these tokens at a fairly rapid pace during the liquidity event. So keep that in mind. Even though the numbers may look small, they're going to add up very quickly. So with that, I think, you know, just for myself, based on all of the different availabilities of revenue streams, I think, you know, having some sort of mix and strategy to get all 3 tokens is a really good plan. You know, especially with the leash minting so many bone per 24 hours that we saw in the last in the last video. Now, this does not take into consideration any losses due to lopsided liquidity pools. So if the impermanent losses may offset this, because once people realize that you can mint about 7 bone per 24 hours, even with a total allocation of all leash tokens being in the pool, that may make the price jump so great that it will be very lopsided and you may get mostly Ethereum back out of the pool. But that said, at the end of that 14 days, you're going to have a lot of bone in proportion to everybody else if you bury that leash token. So, you know, I would definitely look at doing all 3 of these because you've got all of the different incentives for each one. So I hope this video series has been helpful. And if you have any questions, or if you see incorrect math or have other up-to-date numbers, feel free to leave a message in the comments and we can discuss. I have discussed, you know, some of these numbers with the people on Discord, and, you know, everybody has some different math to go by, but this is kind of what I've gone with, and really with the numbers I saw posted from the dev. And again, he even says these are approximated numbers, so these aren't going to be exactly correct, but this is just to give a rough estimate of which tokens can produce the most bone at any given time. So again, with that, I hope you enjoyed these videos, and I appreciate your support. And with that, Archangel out.